So for a long time now, I've wanted to do a video series called Letters from America. There was a wonderful, wonderful journalist called Alistair Campbell back in the 60s, and he used to have a radio show where he'd do his Letters from America, and it was, his perspective as a British person, telling his British friends what it's like to actually live in America. And I thought, I have the opportunity to do that because I've lived here on and off for more than 20 years, but I'm still very, very British. And I'm aware of the fact that many of my British friends think they know what America is like because we watch American movies and we watch American TV shows, and many of us go on vacation to Florida and New York and Las Vegas and stuff. But you don't. You don't know what it's like to live in America. America is a very, very different, wild, crazy, amazing place. And it's very different to how most British people think it is. And so maybe there is some value that I can bring by giving my perspective on America, because I love this country. I truly love this country. I wanted to live in America ever since I was a little kid. I was obsessed with cowboys. Obsessed with cowboys. And I wanted to come and live in America. My parents were always like, well, why don't you go and live in Australia or Africa? Because they understood, because, my parents themselves have lived in different countries and they love Africa. But I'm like, no, it's America. Something about the American dream. And I worked my arse off to finally come to America. And when I did, just from the moment I landed, I realized I was home. I love this country to bits. I consider it such an incredible privilege to live here. And now I'm an American citizen, and I truly, truly love America. I realize America is not perfect, but no country is perfect. And no country is perfect, but no country aspires to be perfect more than America, because what drives American culture is this idea of self-responsibility and self-reliance and independence and being able to be who you want to be. That's the American dream. And I know that America might appear to fall short of the American dream very, very often, but it's still there. It's still sewn into the very fabric of this country. It's such a wonderful juxtaposition and contradiction, and it's I don't know, it's an incredible place. And I kind of want to share my experiences of living in America with people. And one of the things that inspired me to make this video today is because America is not okay right now. And I think that's the first time in the 20-something years that I've lived here when I can truly say that. And what's not right about America today is the fact that it's a country that's very, very divided. And this situation that's going on in Israel and Palestine has really brought that to a head. Because what you have to understand about America is that America is a Jewish country. I mean, there are more Jewish people living here in New York than there are in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem put together. Everything about America is very, very strongly linked to Judaism. These stupid people with the conspiracy theories of like, oh, Jews are running the world. It's like, no, but it just happens that a lot of the people who came here fleeing persecution because they were Jewish ended up becoming very successful in business or making movies, and movies define culture, making TV shows define culture. So much of American culture stems from Jewish people. Just in the same way, to be honest, so much of American culture stems from African American people as well. Like, people don't understand this. Everyone's always like, oh, America's the land of the, white supremacists and Texans and Republicans and stuff. It's like, no, this country really is a melting pot, and all of the melting pot has brought in influences. But to me, living here in America, in New York specifically, is an incredible experience because I have the privilege of actually knowing Jewish people, having Jewish people as my friends. My father-in-law is Jewish. I wouldn't even be in America if it wasn't for a Jewish man who took me under his wing and brought me to America. He made me part of his family for 4 years, and he was like a father to me for 4 years. And I have a wonderful father, and all of the things that I'm proudest of about myself, I like to think I learned from my father's example, but I also, from this other man who was like a father to me for 4 years, learned so much, and he helped me become so much of a better person. So I really do think of him as a father, and he brought me into his family. So I was surrounded for the first 4 years of living in America. I saw it from the perspective of living surrounded by Jewish people, and it was amazing. Like everything in my life has been made better by that. And right now, today, I have a yarmulke because I just went to a Jewish wedding. It was beautiful. It was first. I don't like going to weddings, I have to admit. So I've only been to a handful of them, but this one was amazing because, it's different. I got raised in England where we have one religion. And I know people are like, oh no, we have many religions in England, but we actually have the Church of England. We have a state religion. So I grew up in the Episcopalian Anglican tradition. So it's weird to go to a completely different religious ceremony. And the things that are different about it struck up. And one thing about this wedding that I went to is all the men would go up and give speeches about this marriage and the importance of this marriage and this union. And they spoke with such vulnerability and sensitivity and emotion in a way that you definitely don't see normally, like among American men. And as a British person, as an upper class British person, I was like, I'm almost uncomfortable with the level of emotion that's being shown here because I'm not capable of facing my own emotions. So it was amazing. Yeah, as I said, my father-in-law is Jewish, so we light a menorah at Christmas. Judaism is something that is part of my experience in America. But the thing that's amazing to me is the fact that I'm incredibly privileged to have that opportunity, because most people don't know any Jewish people. There are only 15 million Jewish people in the entire world. 15 million. It's less people than actually live in New York, which is crazy. 15 million people in the entire world who are Jewish. To put that into perspective, there are 10 times more people who recognize King Charles III as the head of state of their country than there are Jewish people. So for me, being surrounded by Jewish people and having Jewish people make me feel like I'm part of their family is something I kind of take for granted. But most of my friends in Britain and other parts of the world probably don't know any Jewish people. They probably literally don't know any Jewish people, or if they do know, they know one or two of them, and they're probably not friends with them. They probably don't go out for dinner with them. And just like in Britain, we think we know American culture because we watch American movies and American TV shows. I think a lot of people in Britain think they know Jewish people because of there is, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, all these amazing movie directors and producers are Jewish, and you've got TV shows like Seinfeld that are like so rooted in Jewish culture. So we in Britain think that we know what Jewish culture is and Jewish people are like, but you don't. You really don't. And yeah, to me, that was something that I wanted to make a video about, because I realized that I have a perspective people in Britain don't. And that's where it comes to where we are right now in the world, and why I think right now America is not okay. And this situation in Israel have brought it to a head, because American culture, one way or another, is very much driven by Jewish people, because Jewish communities support and uphold their families and their kids. They value education, they value intelligence, they value service. So many smart people go and serve their communities as leaders in business or serve their communities as politicians. And that means a lot of what gets driven forward in America is done by very intelligent, very smart Jewish people. And that's why traditionally America has always supported Israel and supported what's going on in Israel. And I don't want to talk about the situation in Israel because that's a topic for a different video. But a lot of my British friends are like, why does America always support Israel? It's like, because a lot of the decision makers in America are Jewish, and the basic fundamental belief of, hey, we're a displaced group, and this is our homeland in Israel, and we've got to defend the homeland. Like even the most moderate Jewish person believes that Israel has a right to exist, and but the thing that's different this time, because that's what for the longest time, ever since I've lived in America, it's been basically that. If there's a situation that kicks off in Israel, America takes the side of Israel, and it comes down to the basic fact of like, hey, there is this country, Israel, that is a Jewish country and it has the right to exist. But for the first time ever, when this situation kicked off, I started to notice that the narrative has been shifting. And I think part of that comes from social media, because it's not filtered anymore. 10 years ago, everyone got their news through the news channels, and the news channels would give a certain spin on things. And as I said, there's this ridiculous conspiracy, oh, Jews run everything. No, that's rubbish. But it just happens that many successful people who work in the news industry and the media and stuff happen to be Jewish. And so, to a certain extent, they guide what the narrative is. But now, with social media coming in, where people can post anything and you can have citizen journalists, people are starting to get other perspectives and are starting to question the narrative. And that means, for the first time ever, I'm really starting to see America divided. And I think the fact that I live in New York is where we see it divided the most. Because aside from Israel and Palestine, the place in the entire world where you're going to have the most Jews and the most Muslims living together side by side is New York. And I've really started to see things splitting apart in this country. I was driving to the King of Prussia Mall the other day with my kids, and we kept driving past these Free Palestine signs. There are huge protests going on in New York City and down in Washington, D.C. and down in Princeton, where people are standing with Palestine. There are a lot of Jewish people who are standing in defense of, standing to try and argue for a ceasefire that's going on in Israel. And I mean, yeah, even with, it's weird because people are talking about this situation in a way they never used to before, as in, what's going on? Where does it all stem from? What do we do about this? How can we prevent this? How can we not be a part of it? And people used to not question it, I don't think. But there are people now who are like, okay, the attack that Hamas made in Israel is absolutely horrific, and I know people who were affected by this. And then they're like, well, why did they do this? And they start looking into the history of Israel, and people start asking questions. And I'm not remotely interested in debating the situation in Israel and Palestine. All I'm trying to say is that people are going different directions in a way that I've never seen before. And I think it's going to really impact American society, because there are people in America who are passionately pro-Israel. There are people in America who, well, I think that's the thing. I'm sorry, I haven't been explaining myself very well. It's very easy for us to be the middle ground people who are like, we need a ceasefire in Israel, and that's fine, and that's right. We want to stop babies dying, of course. But I think the thing in America that has really started to come to the surface that I've never seen before is people are starting to have debate, and there are people on one side who are like, Israel has a right to exist, and it should be a united ethno-state, which means all the Palestinians have to conveniently disappear. And then there are people who are like, Palestinians should be free, and that means, they should have equal rights to Jewish people, and Palestine should become Palestine again, from the river to the sea. It's a phrase you'll hear a lot now, from the river to the sea, which basically means from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean should be Palestine, as in Israel should conveniently go away. And that's the problem. You have all these people in the middle who are like, let's just stop dropping bombs on babies, and beheading babies and doing terrible, horrible things. But there are groups of people in America who have now really started to be visible, who are either saying, let's conveniently eliminate all of the Palestinians and then we won't have a problem anymore. And then there are people who are saying, let's conveniently remove Israel and we won't have a problem anymore. And that's the problem, because we have these two sides. And these two sides, their only definition of victory in this is the annihilation of the other side. And the problem is that many, many Americans are stuck in the middle and they want to ceasefire, and they're hearing things and they're starting to look into the situation in Israel and Palestine a lot more. And the more you look into it, the trickier and more uncomfortable it becomes. I'm a history major. My grandfather worked directly with Churchill, nothing to do with Israel, many years before that. But I remember I spoke to my father the other day. He was in Jerusalem in 1963. He went to visit a refugee camp from all the Palestinians who'd been kicked out in 1948, 700,000 of them. And he met this old lady there. And when I spoke to him the other day, he was like, that old lady probably died in that camp, and her grandchildren are probably still in that camp. And it's like, yeah, when you start looking into what's going on in Israel and Palestine, it gets really, really uncomfortable. And anybody who fully 100% supports one side or another basically supports genocide. And most Americans are good people and they don't support that. And so we are starting to have some really uncomfortable conversations about what we're going to do with the situation. And yeah, right now, people are really talking about the fact that the US House of Representatives just sent $14.3 billion of aid to Israel, and Israel is dropping bombs on, trying to eliminate Hamas at the moment. But Hamas have all of their tunnels and headquarters under civilian buildings. So lots of innocent people, and especially children, are dying right now in Palestine. And I think a lot of Americans, including myself, are deeply uncomfortable to think that our tax dollars are being used to pay for that. And it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. And this is probably the hardest conversation that America is going to have since slavery. Like, what can we do about this situation? How can we give Jewish people the homeland that they deserve, while at the same time give Palestinian people basic human dignity? And yeah, I don't know what the answer to that is. I genuinely don't. And I know that I have a great many Jewish friends and Israeli friends, and what Hamas did on October the 7th is just unspeakably evil. But at the same time, the response that is occurring is evil as well. And yeah, it's these two extremes on either side who are becoming very visible in America. You know, very important people who are like, yeah, let's support Netanyahu and his plans. And then there are very important and influential people who are like, we need to support Israel. And, you know, these are like the protests going on in Harvard and Princeton and stuff like that. Like, shit's getting real. Shit's getting really real over this. And I don't know where it's going to end up. But I do know that most Americans are good people. And most Americans don't want innocent people to be hurt. And right now, we are part of the problem on either side of it. That's not saying supporting Israel is the problem. I'm just saying there is a problem and we are part of it, and I think a lot of Americans are very, very uncomfortable about it in a way that I've never experienced or seen before. And I don't know where it's going to end up. But I just wanted to make this video because if there are people in Britain who are wondering what's going on in America, then that's my perspective on it. Americans are good people, really, really good people. And they make actions based on what they believe is right. And for a long time, the stories and the narratives they got were helping drive that. Same as in every country in the world. But now the narratives are shifting and perspectives are changing and people are seeing other viewpoints. And that is really making America question things in a way I've never seen before. I don't know. I wish I had the answer to anything, but I don't. I don't know. What can I say? I think I mentioned I was at my son's school the other day, which is in the synagogue, looking at this sign where you could get wine. You could sponsor a farmer in Israel and get wine shipped from the homeland. And I thought that's kind of cool. Then I was like, what if this Israeli farmer is growing farm on a settlement that he took from a Palestinian family? It's like, things are messed up and we are very much part of that. And I think most Americans and most Jewish Americans are really good people. And now that our eyes are being opened to things, it's going to get weird. And not necessarily weird in a good way. Hopefully it will get good in the long run. But I don't know. We're going to see some shit. We're going to see some shit. And all you have to do is just cherish your Jewish friends. Cherish your Muslim friends. Try not to support anything in which babies are going to be killed. And that goes equally to either side. Because I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts. Just, I don't know. Has this video been useful? So I make more videos about what it's like to live in America? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you have any thoughts about this, if you're sitting there and you know how to fix the situation in Israel and Palestine, then by all means, let us know. Because none of the big wigs in charge know. Yeah. But until then, as my brother used to sign off all his emails to me, keep the faith. I believe in America. And I believe in Americans. And I believe that they do the right thing. Sometimes it takes a little while to get there, but they do the right thing. And I don't know what the right thing is. That's the problem. That's really it. Americans do the right thing, but right now we don't know what the right thing to do is. And we just want people to stop suffering. And we want to give people dignity. And we want to give people a right to exist and a right to have some place to call home. I don't know what the answer is. Thank you very much for anybody who actually watched this rant. As I said, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you'd ever like to see another video like this. And until then, I will speak to you later.